Hello and welcome. This is This Media Network's weekly program, Talk to Artists, and I'm Gamechisa Mendida, bringing the program to you. Kiswahili is one of the African languages spoken by many people in different parts of Africa. And today we are joined by Imani Paulo, who is an advocator of Kiswahili language from Ethiopian Kiswahili community in Addis Ababa. He's going to tell us about what he does in Addis Ababa and all his experiences in relation to Kiswahili language. Imani, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Imani, tell us about your experiences in Addis Ababa and about this particular Ethiopian Kiswahili community in Addis Ababa.
I am a Swahili advocate for Africa. It's been at least maybe 6 or 7 years I've been advocating Kiswahili globally. And now I'm doing the same work here in Ethiopia. I'm the first one to teach Kiswahili in Ethiopia starting 2020. That's when we start to teach Swahili. But I'm also among the founder of Ethiopian Kiswahili community or Ethiopian Swahili community.
Can you tell us how many people speak Kiswahili language and in how many countries Kiswahili is spoken?
A community of Swahili-speaking people come from different countries that speak Swahili, such as Somalia, South Sudan, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, Tanzania, Comoros, Malawi, Zambia, South Africa, Botswana, and Namibia.
You are an advocator of Kiswahili language, and what motivated you?
Yeah, well, may I start by saying this first, that as a Pan-Africanist, there is no way you can talk about the full unity of Africa without a language. And the languages we have on ground now, they divide us more than uniting us. I'm talking about colonial languages. English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic as well is colonial language too. And the other ones, even Chinese progressively, they divide us, they don't unite us. So we have to have a language in order to unite. That is why it motivates me, first of all. Now, the reason why I choose the Ethiopia, there is a lot of reasons, but few of them, one is being that here in Ethiopia is where the African Union headquarters is, and the location of Ethiopia as well, close to the Swahili-speaking countries. As already mentioned, the neighbor countries, almost all of them, they speak Swahili. And then the relationship between those countries and Ethiopia, but also there is some rumors, don't quote me on this exactly, but there is some rumors that Ethiopia may join East Africa community. And the East Africa community is the only bloc in Africa that use indigenous language, which is being Kiswahili, but is also the best performing bloc when it comes to economy and everything, integration as well. So in addition to that, I think Ethiopia and Kenya specifically, they have a good relationship when it comes to like Mombasa seaport, where Kiswahili is said to be born in those areas, Zanzibar and Mombasa, that's what they are saying. So if Ethiopia is going to be able to use the seaport, it is good, at least Ethiopian, to be able to speak or to communicate in Kiswahili. But in matter of fact, language is everything. It makes people to feel like it's one family. So once Ethiopians can speak Swahili, they will have comfortable being able to feel like they are at home if they go to Rwanda, for instance, or they go to Uganda, or they go to Congo DRC. They will feel like they are very comfortable and they are not foreigner.
Kiswahili is spoken by many people in Africa, and it is adopted by many countries in the continent. What is special about this particular Kiswahili language?
Well, it has a lot of facts in there. There is a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason is our founding father of Pan-Africanism. They were so intense in advocating, in teaching, in developing the language. If you can remember, Kiswahili was pretty much developed in long way or in a large manner, a scale of speakers by Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the first president of Tanzania, who saw Kiswahili to be the unified language of East Africa. That was when he implemented the language in schools and also in any government areas. It has to be spoken Kiswahili there. That is number one, so the biggest one. Number two is Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya as well. He took on that, and he implemented Kiswahili to be in Kenya schools. I believe it was around maybe 1985 where they include Kiswahili in schools. Everyone have to be taught Kiswahili. But before that, Black Americans in the US, United States of America, they actually take the movement further in 1966 when they created Kwanza, which is Kiswahili would mean the first, or Andinya in Amharic, if you mean to say. And then it comes to Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah also implemented Kiswahili in Ghana, in West Africa, when he was in office, to be taught in the University of Accra, to be broadcasted in the media in Ghana back in those days. And Patrice Lumumba as well of Congo implemented Kiswahili. So Kiswahili has been growing in that sense. But also the other reason is because Kiswahili is neutral to the ethnic conflicts. This just quote is from the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni Kaguta. So when it comes to ethnic conflicts, Kiswahili is so neutral to the point that it makes people to be able to get in touch with Kiswahili compared to other ethnic languages that always fight around. But there is another point maybe there is that Kiswahili is a very easy language to learn. Because it's a formation of, it's combination of languages, so it makes Kiswahili more easier based on which language you already speak as local languages. So that is maybe the reason why, but I think Kiswahili has the bright future compared to the past, how we've been using Kiswahili. I think is the biggest opportunity that Africans have in hand that we need to explore and we need to use wisely. And we need to stop saying, hey, Kiswahili is a Kenyan language. A lot of Ethiopians say that here in Ethiopia. Here in Ethiopia, they say it's Kenyanya. It's not true. I'm originated from Congo, but I grew up in Tanzania. So at the end of the day, you found out that Kiswahili is spoken in Congo as well, in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Mozambique. Everyone speaks Swahili, and it's official language and national language of Tanzania, it's official language and national language of Kenya, it's official language of Uganda, it's official language of Rwanda. So it's not Kenyan language. If anyone ever think that, it's not true.
Let's come to the significance of Kiswahili to Ethiopians. What is the significance of Kiswahili economically, politically, and socially to Ethiopians?
Yes, I think that, first of all, language, any language, regardless whether it's Kiswahili or it's Sidaminya, any language is important. And once you know it, it's always important. It doesn't matter how much small it is, it's always important. Now, when it comes to Kiswahili, it's very unique. As African people, we are not presented under any other language. I want my fellow Ethiopian to understand to me very careful that if you go any other place, they would ask you, do you speak Swahili? As long as they see you as a black person or African, they just say, hey, do you speak Swahili? So, and if Ethiopians will learn the language, that one will be, it will fall in its own part. That is number two. Economic significance is the biggest part on Swahili. You know, Ethiopia is a landlocked country. And anything that comes inside Ethiopia either it has to come through the air or it will have to come from the neighbor countries. And the biggest areas where things can come easily, they are Swahili-speaking countries. South Sudan is among the Swahili-speaking countries as officially. It's taught in South Sudan, and in fact, the biggest community of Swahili-speaking in Ethiopia we have, they are South Sudanese. It's shockingly, but it's true. So one is that everything comes to Ethiopia it may come from neighbor countries, and among those is the Swahili-speaking countries. So it will be more easier to do business in those countries. That's number. Number two, as the headquarters of Africa Union, Kiswahili has been adopted to be official and working language of Africa, inside Africa Union. So Ethiopia, as proud as it is, and Ethiopians as well, it is better to have the language that unify the rest of Africans. Because you can tell me anywhere Ethiopians will be able to communicate with people from Mozambique, unless it's Kiswahili. Because Mozambicans are colonized by Portuguese, so they speak Portuguese, those who are elite. Now, if you go there, you don't speak Swahili, and they don't speak your English, maybe you may have around you, or Amharic, or whatever language, so it's not gonna work. So we want, for that reason, Ethiopia should be leading country to adopt Kiswahili. We want Kiswahili to be included in Ethiopian schools from primary school to universities. That is something that is the vision and mission of Ethiopian Swahili community. Kiswahili should be taught in all schools in Ethiopia as English is taught in Ethiopia.
So in your advocacy work of Kiswahili language in Addis Ababa, what have you achieved?
Well, there is a lot of things we have achieved, but there is also a lot of things we have not even get to touch to that. What we have achieved, one is achievements. One is we were able to create a sense of feeling that people are at home, people who are from Swahili-speaking countries. Before I come to Ethiopia, Rwandese will report to Rwanda embassy. Kenyans will report to Kenya embassy. They have their own community as Kenyans. Tanzanians is same thing, Ugandans same thing, Congolese same thing. But when we come to here, then we create Ethiopian Swahili community, which is a big number of those are Ethiopians. So now we have Ethiopians coming together with Kenyans, Rwandese, Burundians, Congolese, South Sudanese, everyone coming together to be one family from all those different countries. That is number one, to bring community together. Number two is to be able to teach Kiswahili to even small number that we teach them, and to explain what is Kiswahili. Number three is to go through the media and tell the people the importance of a unified language. To develop Africa, you must use African language. So that is number three. Number four is the culture aspect that we're bringing together, because Swahili does not have one single culture, because all the culture from South Africa, from Kenya, Tanzania, it's come together. So that is another one. Now, things we have not done that we are fighting for. One is, I wish Addis Ababa Mayor, Madam Adenich Abeba will listen to me. We need African Kiswahili Center in Ethiopia. That is a building we need in order to promote African culture, to promote history of Kiswahili, to bring Kiswahili food here so people can come and eat, Kiswahili clothes, all of that. And number two, we need a Kiswahili Adabai or Kiswahili Square or area. Here we are around 6 kilo, right? This is 6 kilo, down there is the Arat kilo, there is a Piazza, there is Marikato, there is Magananya. So we need the area that is called Kiswahili or Swahili. And then we need the Minister of Education, possibly, and maybe the Member of Parliament as well, to pass regulation to teach Kiswahili from primary school to universities. This is the only thing Ethiopia can hand to Ethiopian children as the gift and the permanent gift for the future, to bring all Africans together. Bringing Africans together is the most of tough task that I have ever encountered. We are too divided, so we must create anything that can unite us to feel that we are one family. Because believing on this, everyone, Chinese, Japanese, Italians, Germans, British, Russians, Americans, when they look at you and they look at me, they see us from one single place, and we are one family. They don't see us, hey, this is Tanzanian, this is Ethiopian, this is Rwandese, this is the Nigerian, this is Ghanaian. No, they don't see that. So we must create some rooms for ourselves to be able to feel that we are one family. And the Swahili is the best key to that.
How do you see the initiative taken by President Sahle-Work Zewde, especially when she paid a visit to Tanzania a couple of years ago? She met with the president of Tanzania of the day, and they talked about teaching Kiswahili language in Ethiopia. And what do you say about it?
Yes, so President Madam Her Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, by the way, she speaks Swahili as well. She had a meeting with former President of Tanzania, Dr. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, who is among the Swahili heroes. And she was the last person to meet with him before he passed away. So she was officially the last person to meet with him. So they agreed that they would be teaching Kiswahili in some Ethiopian universities. Now, there have been a lot of efforts to bring Kiswahili to Addis Ababa University. I think it's still ongoing to push that Kiswahili at least should be introduced to Addis Ababa University. There is a memorandum of understanding that was signed between Addis Ababa University and the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, which is still pending, but is being pushed as well. And so there is this movement of Kiswahili, as Sahle-Work Zewde, President of Ethiopia, the Queen, I call her the Queen, she said that, so we have a lot of hope that eventually Kiswahili will come to Ethiopia, and the people will be happy, because I know a lot of Ethiopians actually want to learn Kiswahili. A lot of Ethiopians, too many in fact, they want to learn Kiswahili, especially when it comes to Pan-Africanist Ethiopian, because we understand that Pan-Africanism without a language is absolutely not a good move. So yeah, we're still waiting to see how it's gonna go down, but we have a lot of hope that Kiswahili will come to Ethiopia. From the Ethiopian government, we know that there is some rumor that they are trying to see how they can deal with this.
Let's think of the future of Kiswahili language all over Africa, including Ethiopia. If Kiswahili language is to be adopted by many countries in the continent, don't you think that it might be a threat to local cultures, languages?
Absolutely not. It's not at all. I think that if there is any threat to local languages, it will be English and French. More than 30 languages in Africa, I did the research, I found them to be on extinct. That means they are dying off because of English and French and other colonial languages. Whereas there is no one single language in Kiswahili area where Kiswahili is spoken that is dying because of Kiswahili. So it's not a threat. For instance, here in Ethiopia, you have 83 languages, according to what I hear, can be a little more or a little less. In Tanzania, as I mentioned, there is 123 ethnics and languages. Kisukuma, Masai, Kikuyu, Kijaruo, Kinyamwezi, and so on. And those languages are still being practiced, they're still being used, they are not being extinct, or they are not on threat of being extinct because of Kiswahili. That is only Tanzania. But you can go on Congo as well, you can go on Kenya. Kenya have around, I am not sure on this, but I think it's 54 languages in Kenya. If it's not 45, it's one in those areas. And those languages, Kikuyu is there, Kijaruo, Kimasai as well, and so on. So they are not being extinct. So don't you please fear, my fellow Ethiopians. Kiswahili will not destroy your culture and your languages. Absolutely not. You're gonna be fine. Because Kiswahili itself, it comes from those local languages. So it's supporting, it's not destroying. Because those, for instance, Amharic, as already mentioned, is the mother of Kiswahili. So the children cannot destroy his or her mother like that. That's not the case. Okay,
in all these activities you've been engaged so far, I believe you might have, challenges. Can you tell us about them, please?
Yeah, well, we have the biggest challenge, the way to communicate. If you don't speak Amharic specifically, I'm talking about in Addis Ababa, I don't know other places. I haven't do any activity there. But if you don't speak Amharic, it is tough to be able to get a message across. Hence that I'm trying to learn Amharic to see if I can be able to communicate fully with my fellow African that I love on my heart. We don't have sponsors. We don't have people who are really into this in terms of finances, because if you want anything to be done, especially this big project that we're talking about, to be able to teach Kiswahili, it requires paying teachers, it requires books, which we don't have any. It requires classes, which we don't have any. I mean offices. It requires laptops. It requires computers. It's so many things that we need. I will definitely take this moment to welcome people. If you really, in your heart, think that you are a Pan-Africanist, you don't just say it on the street. You don't just say, hey, Ethiopia is the home of Africa. If you want to put this on work, please join us. See what you can do. It doesn't matter if it's money or if it's your time or if it's advice. To be able to move around, you need advice. Please, we welcome you. And I want to call the government as well, Ethiopian government, which has been entrusted by the rest of the world, black race globally, Haitians, Jamaicans, Botswanians, Senegalese, Ghanaians, everyone trusts on Ethiopia to be able to move this Pan-Africanist movement. And I want to call to Ethiopian government and people who have capacity or authority to create Pan-African budget. You cannot tell me that you are a Pan-Africanist and there is no budget. How do you do that? You have a budget for education, you have budget for medical, health budget, you have a transportation budget, you have water budget, you have education, but you have all the budgets, but you don't have a Pan-African budget? Ethiopia, please be the first one to establish annually Pan-African budget, which will take care of all those things we are talking about, the Pan-African movements, the unity of Africa, the whatever events and so on going on. So that is the calling for Ethiopia. Other things is that we do events. So as I already mentioned, we do a lot of events. Actually, we do African World Kiswahili Day event, which is on July 7th. We do Ethiopian New Year Kiswahili events. We do Ethiopian Swahili Day. So we do a lot of events. So if you do want to support us on any of those events, please welcome. So we are advocating Ethiopian calendar to at least Swahili countries, 21 countries that speak Swahili. At least that's where my hand can get to. Other places we can't. Our hands is not that long. But yeah, that's what we are doing.
Imani, thank you very much for the interview you gave us, and especially the time and your commitment to come over here and give us this wonderful interview. Thank you again.